Alright, shalom again everyone. This is Yalak with another lesson in the New Testament is Fake series. This is March 3rd, 2018. My lesson is titled, The Sacrifices Are Out of Line, meaning that they're out of line with the precepts of the scriptures. And I'm going to read to you, of course, later on where Isaiah talked about the precepts should be upon precept and line upon line. But I have been recently thinking about the eating of meat and how that does not go in line with the precept of the Creator telling Adam at first to eat herbs and fruits from the trees, things that grow off the earth, instead of growing on top of the earth, like animals running on four legs on the earth, on top of the earth, but rather things that grow out of the earth. He was basically saying, and this shall be meat for you or food for you. So to come off the boat now and be teaching as Noah that the Creator told him to eat meat, that seems very strange. And I have shown already that meat eating was often a part of religious sacrifices, of killing and burning animals. Not always, but a lot, and certainly in the case of Israel, we see that they did make the two combined, where they would eat animals and offer these same flesh animals unto the Most High, and they would also offer their children unto the Most High. So they were both into animal flesh sacrifices and human flesh sacrifices. These are the kinds of people that we're dealing with when we talk about the children of Israel. Sometimes we just glamorize Israel. Listen, most of what we think was nice and good about Israel is just the sellable part of the nation of Israel. You can sell it like that and sell a Bible like that and talk about how people should be, how people should live, and what the Creator wants as far as it comes to the Torah and the Abrahamic religion of, you might say, the children of Israel. But in reality, the Most High started to complain that they were basically disgusting to him. He was sick of them, and he talked a lot about their abominations and so on. So you've got to understand that in order to find their abominations, you have to consider also not just what's said as an abomination, but because they were skillful with it, you have to also consider the things that we were normally told that they were doing that were good. You have to consider, are those abominations as well, but were presented to us as if those were right things? Because there is no way to let abomination thrive and the abominations not sometimes be hidden. If we say we're still living in a pagan world, and the paganism was not just back there, but it's here as well, then obviously the paganism had to have been skillfully hidden and interwoven into our societies, so that gradually over a long period of time, over a couple thousand years, it would seem that paganism is behind us in yesteryear or yester century or yester millennia. For instance, when I was growing up as a boy in the Christian church, we were cultured to think that when you hear terms like Dionysus and Apollo, these other pagan names, and Zeus and so on, that it was just from the New Testament times and before, and that these pagan type of religions were just behind us. But no, they're still here today. They have been skillfully woven into our thinking, our lifestyle, and even into the scriptures. So you have to then think that if something that is good is hiding the paganism, then you've got to think of that with the children of Israel as well, because the children of Israel, the Most High complained that they were heathen unto him. And what were heathens known for? For heathen ways, heathen customs, practices, and religions. So much so that the prophets were prophesying against the practices of the nations that were heathen. So if Israel became like the heathen, that means those prophecies would just hit right to the heart of Israel as well. Israel became heathen. In fact, the Most High says, from the day I took you out of Egypt, you were transgressing against me. So we're told oftentimes that their basis was righteousness and holiness. That's what they were supposed to be. But if the Most High is saying from the start, you were transgressing, you have to see that they really went far off. Because, like, think of it that anytime people are doing the wrong thing, the longer they do it, the more skillful they get and the more they hide it. I've already told you already that even in the book of Ezekiel, they were hiding their abominations inside the walls of the temple. And you had to break the wall to see the abominations and the idols and the gods that they had carved and painted there and so on. And then they would plaster up back the wall again. And so people were using the temple and looking at the temple from the outside and so on, not knowing what was truly hidden on the inside. Hidden, not just in plain sight, but hidden. So that's a precept again that shows that if you are reading from the wall of the scriptures, if I can just use a play on words, you have to break through the wall, the veneer, the covering of the scriptures, to break through what you were told from a child was the true and right way of living before the Creator. And in this case, in this lesson, with the eating of meat and the offering of animal flesh sacrifices, you have to break through that veneer to see, is there something plastered behind that veneer? And yes, I'm showing it again in this lesson. So I'm saying that the sacrifices were out of line. Ask yourself, as I wondered this evening in my notes here, for eons, who has been editing the scriptures and writing the bulk of the books on the Bible and the commentaries on the scriptures and the Torah that would culture our mind and tell us what to think about the Creator and what to believe about the children of Israel's history? Who have been writing those things and the bulk of the commentaries that make us think what we think is correct? Were those people Israelites? All of you who have dug up all the special and magnificent information that's been discovered about the children of Israel being black, and you talk about the different icons and iconoclasm and whatever changes have happened, and you found these inscriptions and drawings here and there all over the earth that show the children of Israel were black. And you've traced them through a couple thousand years through captivity and where they've gone over different parts of the earth and so on, and where they've set up themselves in different nations and calling themselves different names and so on. Ask yourself, were those the people who for the past 1,000 or 2,000 years have been behind the publishing of the bulk of the Bible commentaries? The bulk. Anytime you go and you look for a Bible commentary, a Torah commentary, or a lexicon with the like Hebrew or Greek or whatever, is it mainly like 90%, 95% black people who you would consider the children of Israel who wrote those things, those commentaries? If they are not the children of Israel who've been writing those things, can you now understand why we thought these things were correct? But I'm showing here that in this case, in this lesson, they were not, with the eating of meat and with the offering of animal sacrifices. If somebody else who was not, according to Psalm 147, 19 and 20, showeth his word to Jacob, if someone else or another nation was not given the word of the Most High, and they are found to have put out the bulk of the commentaries and lexicons on earth that fill your bookstores and your online stores and so on, how can you trust them fully? I'm not saying they're not going to tell any truth. Of course they do tell a lot of truth, but there's a lot of deception as well. And I'm showing you, I'm painting to you through my lessons that the children of Israel were not the children of Israel that you think they were. I'm not talking about skin color now. I'm talking about based on their practices. My teachings will show you over maybe another, with what I've done before, and over another 2 to 3 year period, will show you a clearer picture of who the children of Israel are, or were, and still are. See, we've taught a lot, learned a lot. The children of Israel were black, and this is what they looked like, and so on, and this is where they were scattered, and blah, blah, blah. And the parts of the Middle East there, that was just a black place, a black land a couple thousand years ago, stuff like that. And we've taught from that angle, and we're proving who the children of Israel were, and who they still are. I'm coming at you in a different kind of way, and by the time I complete my lessons in the next 2 or 3 years, and maybe you won't hear from me again after that, I don't know if I'll continue. But I'm going to cover, right now I think maybe 4 or 5 different topics that will show you who the children of Israel really were, and will prove to you who they are not today, and will prove to you who they are today. And I'm coming at it from a different angle than just skin color. So that by the time I'm finished, you don't need skin color, but obviously that's very important. We're not going to throw that out. But I'm just saying you don't have to rely on only skin color to prove who the children of Israel were and who they still are. I will prove to you doctrinally, for my doctrine shall drop as rain. I will prove to you by different doctrines who the children of Israel were not, because the doctrines will tell who were not the children of Israel and who are, and who are waking up and working tirelessly and hard to wake up those doctrines once again in the earth. I've told you already, if Elijah comes back, how are you going to know? And please don't bother with this stuff, oh, you're saying you're Elijah, because there's nothing like that I'm trying to hint at. But I'm saying to you, as I've asked before many times, if Elijah were to come back, are you going to know because he's calling on fire and burning up people downtown? Or are you going to know because he's just in some old-time garments, looking like they're worn out by now? Or are you going to know by the doctrine that he wakes up? Because the scripture says when he comes, he's going to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children or something like that. So he's going to come with a different kind of teaching that we are not used to having. Why? Because someone else who was not of the nation of Israel has been teaching the scriptures for millennia and have been putting out the bulk of the information in lexicons and Torah books and Torah commentaries on earth. The children of Israel are going to, by seeking, come to the place where they are putting out doctrines that are different. And only the ones who really are the children of Israel and are going to gravitate to it, those are going to be seen as the ones who are coming back to it. Because the ones who are not of Israel cannot gravitate to the truth in its fullness, in its entirety. Because it will thwart their effort to do whatever they're doing. It will take it down. But the children of Israel will rise when they take on the true teachings and realize that we've been duped. So they will begin to rise before the Most High. So the children of Israel, they always rise by a word. I was reading the book of Ezra again, and it's showing, that the children of Israel, well, again, too, like you look in Judges and so on, Israel usually rises out of their captivity or a bad spot. They rise by word. Now, like you'll find sometimes in the scriptures that they were building the temple again, and they would have, like in the book of Ezra, like they would be building, but they had their sword in their hand. But they didn't start out with the sword. The sword was just extra added on for protection. But it was a word that let them get up first to begin to rebuild. So the word actually comes before Israel rise. When new stuff starts to come, new to us, but it's really digging up old stuff from the past. When that kind of word begins to resurface, Israel is getting ready to rise. Because Israel goes into captivity by a word that curses them, but the same word that curses them builds into them an understanding that by a word you will also come out. Israel lives and dies and lives again by a word. Like Ezekiel saying, Son of man, can these dry bones live again? They died by a word. They went down as a nation by a word. But by a word, can they live again? Well, surely you know, Most High. So prophesy and speak another word to let them come to life again. Because Israel rises by a word. That's why you don't need no guns and bombs and armies. Because Israel went down into captivity by a word, and Israel will come alive again and rise by a word. That's why the Most High gave a word saying, is Israel a homeborn slave? And he says, awake, arise, shake yourself from the dust. Why? That's a word again telling that Israel can get up again and rise by a word, by proper teaching. But it surely can't be wrong teaching. So if you are surrounded by wrong teaching for 1,000 years or so now, or whenever, however long, we've been surrounded by certain Torah teachings, and the Most High is saying you're still a homeborn slave, that means the word you're getting is not freeing you, because you are going by the word that tells you, as in this lesson's case, to be sacrificing and believing in sacrifices of animals and so on and so on. That word has not freed us, because sacrifices don't give salvation, but a word of truth brings deliverance, because it brings you back to the name and the power structure of the Most High. That's rooted in the word of promise that he gave and the word of instruction, which is his Torah. So we have been given a fake Torah, which I call the given Torah or the public Torah, for the public to consume and for the public to be burying their head in trying to study with their eyes going all over the page. But true Israel bypasses a fake word all the time. When they're in Babylon and they're hearing you should bow down and worship this other God based on their teachings. But Israel always comes to a place where they bypass the wrong teachings, no matter how long it takes them, and they gravitate and clutch on to a true teaching that some people just get and they can't let it go, and it just comes out of their mouth.